I'm a stranger in the eyes of the maker.
You recognize that song? Well, how about these ones? I bet you do. They are all the masterful work of this man, Daniel Lanois, singer, songwriter, composer, and one of the most respected and talented producers on the planet. Lanois hails from Hull, Quebec, but spent most of his childhood in the Hammer, that is Hamilton, Ontario. One of his first breaks as a producer came with this Canadian hit back in the 80s. Oh, that song's gonna be stuck in your head forever now, isn't it? Eventually, Lanois formed a partnership with Brian Eno, and when Eno got asked to produce this band called U2's album, The Unforgettable Fire, he brought in Lanois for the ride. U2 was so happy with the result that they have Eno and Lanois produce their next album, the legendary The Joshua Tree. That record won a Grammy. That record will go down as one of the best of all time. And Lanois went on to produce the likes of Willie Nelson, Peter Gabriel, Bob Dylan. By the way, with Dylan, another Grammy. Lanois is also a successful musician himself. He's released 5 albums and now has a documentary out. It's called Here Is What Is, and it looks at the creative process of making music. Take a look. A lot of work in that man's life and a lot of life in that man's life. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Daniel Lanois.
Good to see you, man. How are things? Everything's going pretty good. Just been making music and motorcycling.
Making music and motorcycling, that's right.
That's good.
We can talk about the bikes in a sec. You're also making movies.
Yes.
Toronto International Film Festival passed. You had a picture in there. You got some pretty good response. For you. Here's What Is.
Here's What Is. We had our premiere. 1,100 people there. Mm-hmm. Sold out. Everybody laughed and cried and clapped. I couldn't believe it.
Did they laugh, cry, and clap at the appropriate times?
They were laughing at things that were not meant to be funny to begin with, so I thought, well, maybe we at least have the naive spirit working in our favor.
So, for people who haven't seen the picture yet, tell them what it is.
It's a music film, and people have always asked me, there's no footage of you working in the studio. Why don't you put a camera in there? And I agreed. And it's the journey through my world over the course of a year. Mm-hmm. 5 cities, Toronto, LA, Shreveport, Louisiana, Dublin, Ireland, and Fez, Morocco. Fez, Morocco kind of closes the journey, and that's with Brian Eno and U2. And that's it. It's just a creative process as it happened over the course of a year.
So the picture ends with you and Eno working with U2 on their new record, but it also begins with you and Eno in a sense. And I always wanted to play you a clip. Lanois and Eno have worked together for an awful long time, worked on some enormous records, and there's this great scene to open the picture where Daniel tells Brian what he's doing in this picture and tells him what he wants out of it, and then asks for Brian's response.
One thing I would say about your film is that what would be really interesting for people to see is how beautiful things grow out of shit. Because nobody ever believes that. You know, everybody thinks that Beethoven had his string quartets completely in his head. They'd somehow appeared there and formed in his head before and all he had to do was write them down and they would kind of be manifest to the world. But I think what's so interesting and what would really be a lesson that everybody should learn is that things come out of nothing. Things evolve out of nothing. You know, the tiniest seed in the right situation turns into the most beautiful forest, and then the most promising seed in the wrong situation turns into nothing.
It was a hell of a way to start a movie, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. I love Brian Eno, and he puts a lot of thought into everything, and so it was a great honor to just plunk him down in that little Moroccan courtyard. And Anton Corbin was walking with us, so I put the camera in his hands. I said, "Okay, Anton, let's see if we can get something out of Brian."
Well, it was like you were sort of asking if Brian would participate, and you even seemed a little reticent to go there with him at that moment.
Yeah, I mean,
And he seems a little edgy at that moment.
This is a guy who doesn't like to be interviewed to begin with, so I had to make him feel comfortable as a friend. And but he's always kind of fuming inside, so I just took advantage of the moment there and sort of got him to say something about life.
You have a guitar. This has never happened on a regular 11 o'clock edition of the hour. We never had anybody play, but you want to play the song for us?
Yeah, sure.
Daniel Lanois, here is what is.
Ice falls on me, but I feel no cold. You're like a fleece, like a new soul. I'm standing on the ledge, not fearing the fall. Your salvation teaches all. Here is what is, here is what is. Spiral on down to your sweetheart. Here is what is, here is what is. Don't you go walking too along in the dark. I ran for a minute, then the city took me back. The railway of promises was a broken track. Through your eyes I can see that maybe I don't need to be what I thought I should be. Oh, here's what is, here's what is. Spiral on down to your sweetheart. Here's what is, here's what is. Don't you go walking too long in the dark. Came here on a brave driving wheel. Now I'm wearing these heavy arms of steel. Don't know what is light and what is shadow. I kinda thought I did, but I guess I don't know. Here's what is, here's what is. Spiral on down to your sweetheart. Here's what is, here's what is. Don't you go walking too long in the dark. Oh, here's what is, here's what is. Spiral on down to your sweetheart. Here's what is, here's what is, what is. Don't you go walking too long in the dark. Dark.
Will they get this on a soundtrack? Where will they get that song?
Yeah, that song, there'll be a record, of course, probably called Here's What Is, early in the new year, and that song will be on there. Yeah.
You take a look at all the artists that you've worked with, and at one point in the film, just only a segment of the album covers come up, and you kind of go, "Holy Jesus, you've worked on a lot of records." Yeah. And I wondered if, I almost wondered, in a sense, what you learned from each of these individual artists. Like, what did Peter Gabriel teach you? What did the Neville brothers or even Dylan teach you, or you too, for that matter?
It's an incredible journey for a Canadian kid, I got to say. You know, to be able to sit in the chair next to Bob Dylan for a couple of albums. How great is that? To watch the master at work with his lyrics.
There's a lot of people, never mind the master, there's a lot of people who say that it was your records with Dylan that brought Dylan back, because he was kind of lost in the wilderness for a while.
Well, I think my dedication and commitment was contagious to Bob, and perhaps that's what he needed at that time, to feel that there was somebody in the room that was as strong as him in their own way. I think the power of commitment is very contagious, and it snowballs. You know, like if we hang out and we start talking about motorcycles, you're going to want to buy a new one, and so will I. Yeah,
we already in the lead up to this interview, I think, have sold each other 2 bikes. So,
so that's always been my technique, really, George, is to get in the room and want the best for an artist, and it's like looking at a lover in the eye and knowing that they really care about you, and I think there's no replacement for that.
In this movie you have, and I've never actually seen this before, there are a couple of scenes of you two working on a record, and there's even like a chorus in there.
Oh, I'm so happy to let me use that. I thought, ooh, they're not going to let one of their choruses come up before their own record. But it's not. What's sweet about that chorus is Bono's singing, The Edge, myself, and Eno, as we've done a lot of group singing on U2 records over the years, so it was nice to actually see that on camera.
You sent the band the movie, they watched it?
I sent the band the movie, and I spoke with Bono about this maybe 10 months ago.
Yeah.
I said I was making, he says, what are you doing? I said, I'm making a film. He said, you're making a film about yourself? I said, well, I'm getting some help from a couple of friends. He says, oh, watch out, Lanois, death by narcissism. and so then I sent him the finished result. He called back. He says, you've done it. He says, you might take a few arrows in your hat, but you won't take any arrows in your heart. So I took it as a big compliment.
It's good to see you. Thanks for coming
Thanks
in.
a lot, George.
Daniel Lanois. Do you want to play us a commercial break? Daniel Lanois, The Hour will be right back.
Mm.